We've had a tough week in our pastorate. We've had 3 funerals in 7 days, and that makes 18 since my birthday on the 16th of April. That's a lot for us. And as you may have read in the bulletin, I was supposed to be gone on vacation last week to the deserted place of Nebraska. That was as deserted as I could get. And so I had to cancel that. But we do what the church does. We are here to be with and for people in their times of need. And so when I took a look at the gospel for today, I had to kind of smile because I kind of know how Jesus felt. So he and the boys had been out on kind of a road trip, teaching and preaching and healing. And they got back and they were sitting around really sharing what they'd been doing for ministry for a while. And he said, let's get out of here. Let's come away to a deserted place. And so they took off. But the people found out where they were going. And they were in a boat crossing to the other side of the lake. They just took off and they got there before Jesus did. And I can only imagine when he got out of the boat and looked at him and went, oh. And it said, he wasn't disgusted, it said his heart was moved with pity because they were like sheep without a shepherd. Well, this summer I've been thinking a lot about what does it mean to be shepherding and what does it mean to be pastoring. And pastoring and shepherding looks a lot different in our day and age than it did with Jesus. The fundamentals are the same, but it looks a lot different. So for us, we have roughly 1,000 households in the Emmaus Pastorate. We have somewhere between, conservatively, 2,500 and 3,000 people that should be a part of our parishes. We have 17 communities that feed into this pastorate. We have, as the Archbishop affectionately refers to us, as the country of Belgium, because it's 450 square miles, and that's what the country of Belgium is. And so as I think about that, I think about what I've always said in my own heart and my mind since I started to work in multiple pastorate, multiple parish settings, is that you could administrate multiple places, but it's very difficult to pastor multiple places. And the heart of a shepherd is not in administration. It's in pastoring, because pastoring is about relationships, huh? And so, but the things that people get after you for is not the relationship stuff. One of the places, the people were mad because the air conditioning wasn't working, and they thought it was my fault, So I asked somebody to look at it, and it didn't get fixed. I asked somebody else to look at it, and it wasn't much better. So I looked at it, and every one of the ventilators had a filter that you couldn't even see through. So guess what? We pulled all the filters out and vacuumed everything out, and it's freezing in there now. Is that the pastor's job? No. But that's what happens when nobody takes charge of their own place. Or 3 weeks ago when we were talking about the removal of children from families, and of course that's left the news, and there are still kids that their parents have no idea where they're at. So I got a friendly letter in the mail that, of course, was not signed, and they don't really spend much time on my desk. But I was very amused by the last line, which said, I used to like to come to church because it was my happy place. Now it's not. And I thought, great, because this isn't supposed to be your happy place. This has a different purpose here. Well, let me tell you what I think about when I come here on a Sunday or a Saturday for Mass, and I sit in that chair and we get ready for the first reading, and I look out here, and what comes to my mind is who isn't here. Not about making people feel guilty, but because that's what a shepherd worries about. I drive past somebody's farm or past their house, and I go, dang it, I haven't seen them for a while. Or I sit down and listen to the responsorial psalm, not paying attention. You did a nice job, Dwayne. But I look at that and I say, I should have called her this week. Or I wonder how that family's doing, okay? Those are the things that a pastor should be doing. Those are the things that a shepherd should be doing. But the most important thing that shepherding and pastoring is about comes from here. It's about preaching the truth of the gospel. And you know from growing up, as well as those of you who have raised children yourself, that sometimes the truth hurts. It's not always a happy thing. Jesus didn't say, I came that you may be happy. You won't find that word in the New Testament. And so it's about talking about what the truth of the gospel is. And the truth of the gospel always accepts us where we are, but it moves us to a deeper place. Now, I need to be real honest with you. It would be so easy to come here every week and tell you what you wanted to hear. I wouldn't have to prepare. I could roll out of bed, come over here, brush my teeth, and just tell you, oh, Don, you're such a nice guy. Jesus loves you. Peace, honey. But that's not really what this is about. Certainly, the message, the overwhelming message of the New Testament, the new law is the law of love, but love has real demands, And so there's sometimes that it's very difficult to preach what that message is. But it's not about telling you what you want to hear. And there's sometimes as I look at scriptures for a weekend and I go, you really don't want me to preach about that, do you? But if I don't feel like I'm being faithful to the gospel. There's a lot of places that make it very easy. And then, of course, we've got somebody who called up and chewed out Cheryl a couple months ago. He said, you just tell Father, you make sure that you tell Father that I can go to Garnavillo and Mass is only 35 minutes. I said, good, have him register there. I don't care. If that's all you want to do is get her done, then something's wrong with what Mass is about. Something's really wrong. And I just don't want to be a part of another generation of having people to think that church is like an event. If it's about an event, your calendar will always trump this with something else. But if this is about developing a way of life, then it's a whole different thing. It's kind of like the difference between going to a family reunion on a weekend and saying, well, you know, our family's gathering at 10 o'clock at this place, and that doesn't really fit. Let's find a different family to go to. If church isn't a family, it's really easy to go. Or in the parishes that are on an AB cycle, I know that there's many of them who don't go to any of our pastorate parishes on their alternating Sundays, and I also know that some people just don't go. Now, I don't take that personally, but I really worry about them. I worry about why they come in the first place. Because this is about relationships. That's what Christ came to do, was to establish new relationships. And those relationships have ramifications about what it means to be in relationship with each other. So it's not just about liking everybody. It's not about nice all the time or happy, but it's about what the gospel really calls us to do. So that's really what the challenging of being a shepherd is. You know, I don't mind the 2,000 miles a month, business miles, about running around trying to serve folks. But it's about staying focused on the main things. And the main things, I think, brings us back to the basics today. The basics are this: why are we here? I mean, you each have to answer that question yourself. Why are you here? Secondly, what do you think this is supposed to accomplish? You have to think about that. Catholics for centuries have never thought about that. They just pay, pray, and obey. But what does it mean to do this? And the most important question is, where is Jesus calling me at this point in time in my life? And this is no matter what age you are. Where is Jesus calling me to grow right now? And that's what a shepherd hopefully helps people to do. And so that's why the scriptures today have some pretty harsh words about shepherds who don't care for their flock. It's not about being perfect. You've known me long enough to know that I ain't perfect. I'll be the first, second, and third to tell you what my faults are. But I do care. And I am concerned. And that's what this is about. It's about us being in a relationship with each other and together looking sometimes at painful things. Because that's what the gospel calls us to do. And so I'm going to ask you to do three things. I've asked you the first one before, and I'll ask you again. But the first one is this, to please pray for me, particularly if you don't like me, because those prayers are really powerful. But pray for me because I love what I do, but this is really a challenging time in the church. Secondly, and equally, pray for yourself. To say, Lord, what are you calling me? How are you calling me to step up in this 5-parish pastorate? And thirdly, equally, pray for this pastorate. We are at a time in history that we've never seen before in the church. I think it's an exciting time. But if we look at it in terms of being kind of overwhelming that one person or two people or even a small staff has to do it all, that's not exciting. But what is exciting is empowering people to come to own the gospel and their baptismal call in their own life so that they can make a difference in the world. And I've said before, and I'll repeat again, that if the people of this pastorate continue to grow and step up to the plate, we will make a tremendous difference in this country of Belgium that the Archbishop refers to these 450 square miles as. That's exciting. It's not about going to church. It's about being church. Anybody can go any place. And if it's just about going, you'll find someplace else that's more important to go on a given day. But if it's about being a part, it's a game changer. It doesn't look the same, it doesn't feel the same, and it will yield something very different. So pray for me, pray for your part, and pray for who God is calling us to be together in the Emmaus Pastorate. We're all called to do a little shepherding, not just me. I do it in a particular way. But you're called to invite people. You're called to encourage people. You're called to change people if they're running around with misinformation about things. That's your job, too, to help correct that. It's your job to help bring people in, to help make healing happen in people's lives. All of us do that. As we continue to pray today, we pray that God will bless our flock together, that we continue to become the people Christ is calling us to become.